sweet shop that was in Mason City for years and years, and the couple that ran it, Harry and Etta Christopoulos, ran this. I used to go there as a kid, and their daughter, every year at the beginning of the season, always sends us a bouquet. And she lived to be about 102.
She's still alive.
Yeah, the daughter is.
The daughter is.
Mrs. died a few years back, but she would be about 102. She used to come out. I'll play you this is a concertina that came out of a drugstore in Mason City. Early version of a disc player for a nickel.
Yeah. You've heard that put a nickel in the Nickelodeon. That's where this came from. And it runs on a nickel.
It's incredible it still works.
We had restored.
Restore it, okay.
It looked like this when it came into the museum, but it didn't spin though. It didn't work. But it was this pretty when it came in.
The sound is beautiful.
Harry's Sweet Shop used to have magazine rack and everything too, see, so and we do use this when we have ice cream day, even though we don't use the fixtures because of all the sanitary laws. We use them.
When the mall came to Mason City and planted itself right in the middle of the road, we got Harry's Sweet Shop, and then we got a lot of other things in Mason City that, because it was the time to be moving into the museum. And we were opening up at 68, so it was a good time for us to receive this. This is all toys and dolls and everything. This is the general store. We have everything in here. The reason the pair of pants is hanging there because Ray's used to be uptown, and this was used in their display case. I mean, in their display above their jeans. They sold, and then the reason that toboggan is up here is because it came from a Clear Lake store, and it's got the number 12 on it because people would rent it, and then when they were done renting or sledding, it came back to the store. Once I cleaned the museum up, this chandelier actually came from a general store, so I had to hang that back up.
Cool.
And just everything that you see, every sign, every seed sack, everything that you see has been donated in the last 53 years. Like the Folgers coffee thing, this is all cigars, and you can weigh yourself if you want to.
I'd rather not.
But you gotta put a penny.
I'll skip that one.
This is what we call our library, and this is what I'm working on. I call this our Rolodex, and it was all full of papers and pictures, but nothing in order. So I started in order, and then I have every hotel that I could find, every store, but it's all in order. You know, like, when I'm working right now, I have the Mason City Police Department done, and I'm working on the fire department now.
Oh, cool.
And the history about some of these people is just amazing that they didn't get any credit. Like, and this guy's Art Caldwell, and he ran a livery stable, livery.
Yeah.
And it
Cadwell.
was like your first bus station, first funeral, before transportation came to Mason City.
Horse drawn,
And this,
chain driven trucks.
I don't know, are you familiar with Mason City?
I'm from here.
Okay, you know where the Congregational Church is uptown?
Yeah.
And you head north? It was right there.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't know
And
that.
then they
And-
moved.
yeah, and then there in 1956 it became a grocery store.
Yep.
And I didn't know that until just the other day. I said, oh, it's right here. If you see that church, this is where the livery stable used to be. But
And now
this
that's
is-
a parking lot.
Well, of course, a lot of stuff is parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't know what's there now.
Yeah, it's a city parking lot.
And you asked me what one of the people's favorite displays are in this museum is this right here. This is John Dillinger robbed the bank in 1934 of $52,000. And when I first put it on, I think it's through the Globe Gazette. I put it on a video. There's a video out there through Visit Mason City. These people are flocking to the bank, and they actually thought there was a film coming to Mason City because somebody was running a camera and they were in harm's way. You know, they flocked to the bank. And this came off the bank, and then this gentleman got hit in the back. He did not get hit with the bullet. The bullet went through the back of his jacket. So here's his jacket, and then this is one piece of glass that got hit by a bullet, and then there's a bullet in there and a fragment of a bullet. And then when Dillinger came to town, he marked his way into town with the red ribbon. And then that sat in a scrapbook for like 30 years, and then they donated that ribbon because it had something to do with Dillinger.
And the daughter, the man here, the daughter still lives in Mason City. She's a good friend of mine. She lives in Mason City.
Of
Mr.
Desart.
Yeah, Mr. Desart. Her name is Susan Borcherding now.
Okay. And this is all sporting, and it's not just Mason City, it's everything to do with sports. And like during the 2020 season, there's a lot of pictures.
Teams.
It's all divided. Okay, I didn't know who Eddie Klein was. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's gone out.
Yeah, he just died like a year ago or so.
We have his pictures. Get this. His coach won Hall of Fame, and we have the plaque, and it was in a tote.
Oh, no kidding.
He was my biology teacher, Howard Barker.
Okay, but the coolest picture I think that's in this whole book is this is women's basketball, and it's dated 1904, and it's got the women's names listed. And they're wearing hats and the whole big, huge dresses. And they played 6 on a court, 3 on a half court. That's a swimming suit. They rented that in Clear Lake. And then, they paid so much for it. And then every single person had the same swimming suit. Nobody had different fashions. See, this is Clear Lake. There's skating, basketball.
Tell me about the mannequin with the lady with the bathing suit, the wrong queen.
Oh, yeah, this just came in. This is a 1950s Miss Mason City. She was a Yonkers lady. I cannot say her last name, but...
Rebecca's.
Okay, and then when they have... She brought the original pictures to begin with, and then she took them back, and they didn't want them at the library, and I wished she would have just kept them here. They crowned the wrong queen. This lady got queen, like a Harvey whatever
Oh, yeah.
moment, and then took the queen away from her, and this is the lady that actually won. And her face in the second picture is like,
Oh.
and I had it on my phone, and then this is what she wore for a swimming suit in 1950. And this will all be marked before we open. There's odds and ends of things that really need
We're
to
in
be.
process, like I told you on the phone, we're always in progress of,
Making a
updating
new
and
design.
changing and moving things around.
And this is a little cart from Rockwell, Iowa.
Triplets.
Oh.
Their father made it for triplets, and then there's a...
And we keep them in there, see?
Oh, cute.
And I think one of them just died.
I don't know, a
I
couple
think-
years ago
yeah.
when we were open, one of them came and they lived at Opportunity Village, or
There they are.
they changed
One Vision?
One Vision. I was gonna say they changed the name again. This is all about fairs, and
Right.
this will be bigger display. I have a ton of stuff on fairs, and the Simeote family came from Mason City, and they had at times the old fairgrounds was at the Sears parking lot, and they had 30,000 people come to the fair
Whew.
during their horse shows.
They used to train horses for the circuses.
And they lived in that. That's Mr. Simeoti's hat, and then we just got the gloves.
And they're buried out at Elmwood.
The
Oh,
Simeoti.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the cemetery.
So that's
Historic
brewery.
walk group.
Oh, yeah.
that's the brewery, and
Yep.
this is Market 124.
They're seeing here's some of the things about the Congregational Church, and here's the building you were talking about.
Yep, yep.
Post office.
KIMT.
Yep. That was the radio chapel at that time.
Yeah.
Let's see. So,
Trinity Lutheran.
so
Lincoln
Sure.
School was right across the street.
Brick
see,
and
where's
tile.
Mohawk Square?
Mohawk Square would be.
You mean the high school?
Okay, now
Yeah.
let's see. That's YMCA. So Mohawk Square would be
Right, that big building.
right here.
Okay, well, I know where I'm at then.
There's the YM right there.
Oh yeah, your house would be over here.
Yep.
There's the brick and tile.
Oh yeah, because right there's a Good Shepherd.
And you live nearby?
Right there used to be a. It was called Kansas City Steakhouse
Oh, sure.
in that old train
Yeah, that was
train
Nick
station.
Zacharias used
These
to run it.
tables all have to be pushed in, but only keeping them out in the shed because they get too much moisture. So we leave them here all winter. This is your KGLO booth. And we
Oh,
usually
cool.
have a gentleman named Bill Moore come, and he actually puts your voice and records you, and you can hear, people can hear you on the radio
Oh, cool.
Very
around
cool.
the old radios, not anything new.
Yeah, we have radios around the building here so you can hear. Kids love it, you know. They make a,
Don't step on my mouse trap or my rat trap. I did.
and he plays all these old records and so on. And
And then we go into theater.
Oh my gosh, Bob Clausen.
And this is his weather wand.
Oh,
I don't know if you're
really?
that old.
I remember shortly
Show
before
weather
he
tower?
shortly before he retired. I was pretty young, but
It's just a dull stick painted orange, and he would just point to maps.
yeah.
Yep. And this lights up for our special day. That will be all lit up. And then this is theater. And if we would have started on that wall and come around, is how the printing press, and then it came to the communication. You know, post office, then telephone, radio, and then television. But this piece of stone came off of the Bijou Theater. Bijou
yeah.
Theater, and these things came out of the Cecil Theater when they had silent movies, and this is what would be your movie posters. They would put this up and advertise the silent movies. But now that things are coming down, we don't get this anymore. I wanted the Marsden thing that came down the top of the building. We didn't get it. And I asked for it long before they took it down. But this is all theater stuff. Then
This is
we
it.
have televisions and old radios here. And this is the radio one of the radios that work when Bill's here. You can hear your voice on this radio. And then it went shortwave radio before radios came. They had shortwave.
And Bill is a ham operator too.
Was he?
I think he still has his license. I don't know.
Oh yeah, this is our first
Mason City's
Pumper.
first pumper.
pumper. We have a real just a wagon with a hose, and a horse would have drawn it. But this pumps. They filled this up with water, and they pumped this, and then it pressurized the hose to put on your water. I mean your fire.
And of course, the kids love this. They don't know what that is.
Telephone booth.
Hey, cool.
But you know what? They know what this is because of Andy Griffith, but they don't know how to dial a phone with numbers. It's like, and then how people still got a cell phone in here from 1990. I don't know if this is one of Mason City's first big ones. I don't remember when they got the C grade, 56 it says. They got their first truck, I think, in 34.
Yeah. That's the one that David Murphy had running around, you know, that he used to run
Oh,
around.
that still runs for their funerals, like if the fireman dies, they still.
That's a 39, I think.
Okay. This is came from Hamlintown, and this is what Mason City's office looked like about the same time. And this is just a handle. The operator would take this home at night, plug it in to her circuit, and so that if this rang, she wouldn't miss a call, like a fire call or 911 call. And I don't know if you guys know anything about two-party lines. You didn't have your own line. 2 or 3 people could be on your okay, or 4, and you would listen to your ring.
2 longs and a short?
Oh.
See, because he's lived it. You know, there's people in Portland that still had party lines clear into 1990s. And they could listen to, anybody could listen to anybody's conversation.
Crazy.
Lady across the street, ours was 2260J and hers was 2260W.
Oh, wow.
2-line. My grandma had a private line.
Oh.
This is the post office, and how the post office started, of course, was Pony Express. And this bag is marked U.S. Post Office, Postal Service. This particular post office came from Birchinell, Iowa, and it looked like this, and they just recently tore it down. And it was the post office and the general store. And if you know where that building is. That was our first post office. And now it's an insurance company. It became the
City Hall.
It was City Hall.
My grandpa built that building.
Is that right?
Wow.
Or the brickwork.
Yeah.
And the hotel.
And when they remodeled this within the last 2-3 years, when they reshingled it, Mark got one of those shingles in his back of his display.
It was all tile, I think.
It is. Oh, yeah. Good. I'm glad you're taking a picture of that. There's a guy named O.T. Dennison, and he's one of the people that Mason City forgets. He was the first, he ran the first Mason City fire company, volunteer. He was a mayor twice.
He ran the old brickyard.
Yeah, he started the brickyard, and he had something to do with the cement plant too.
Probably
And then
did.
his home ended up, he built the house, it's Hogan Bremer Colonial Chapel, and he died, and 2 days later she died. It on her death certificate says, died of broken heart.
Oh.
And they gave to every single church and every single school in their day. It said gave liberally. They gave their money to the schools and the churches. This is a time clock.
Okay.
Like when you punch in for work, let's say you're closest to what number? 61, your employee number 61. You come in and you punch your number and it would record it. And then when you left, it would record it. This is an old blueprint machine. And there was a piece of glass
This was owned by the
here.
Zanius Company.
Oh, is that right?
And this
Before IBM.
Wow.
the paper on here, and then they would roll this shut like a printer, you know, and then the light would scan it. This is your light. They put propane in here, and then they cranked it down, exposed it, and then they unrolled it, and I don't know how they got it all. I don't know who would have thought to make something like this.
Oh.
This is ammonia. It was dangerous, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
So we made blueprints, but we exposed them to the sun.
Oh.
We didn't have those. Too dangerous.
And this was by one of the first people, Bogartis. And then Bogartis married Bagley, and Bagley was the guy, president of the bank when it got robbed in 1934.
It's all kind of connected.
You know, there's so much here. This came out of a studio, and then the rest of this is all old photography. And there's that's a real picture of Mesa City by Kirk, K-I-R-K. and he was standing on one of the buildings, and that's panoramic. Can you imagine how many pictures he would
wow.
have had to have taken to get that?
Yeah.
Because he had to go back to his dark room and get it. And then we get to the Globe Gazette, or your
Oh.
printing presses. This is what they used to run it on. And when I came, I did not know how this ran. I thought these were weights.
Yeah, they're
And-
big.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's lead, and then somebody would type the Globe here, and it'd come off, and the reason it's called linotype is because it come off in a line instead of every letter set, remember, in different fonts. This is Kinney Pioneer Museum. They made this before they brought it to us.
Really?
This line of letters.
See, and that we,
And it would come off this machine, and then somebody still would take them lines and set it.
backwards.
Yes, yep, and then
When I was a kid, the Globe Gazette, I used to go watch these guys make it. And they'd melt these pigs every night with the lead, and then when it was done, they'd remelt it.
no, I just found this picture, and it's not the Globe Gazette, but
That's the old Globe.
here there's several
Yeah.
different papers. They used to say this building right here is the Park Inn Hotel. So here's your alley. Look at it, it says The Times. This is Park Hospital.
Oh, wow.
They had like 23 beds up here. You know what? They had this hospital. They built this for a hospital. They had the printing presses, and it says they had to move some of this down to the basement because it was the building would shake with the printing presses running.
Sure.
It's like, seriously, why would you put a printing press under a hospital? And so
Or
when
why
it's-
would you put a hospital on top of a park?
yeah, right. And then when I was doing the history, it said Park Hospital built in 1908. I thought it was the Park Hospital that they took down where Masters was,
It's a
and it was
different
this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And so by 1911, they built the new Park Hospital. They just built this in 1908, and then we have like the history of the first. The guy that started the paper here makes it. I mean, look at these old pictures.
When the Globe was about that
Oh,
wide.
holy moly.
I know there's all these folders sitting around the museum full of just history. And I don't know if you know Earl Hall, but I didn't know how to put it in here without wrecking the
Yeah.
paper.
Right.
I think I put this over here. Yeah, and that Horace Parker, Horace and his wife, they took over after Kuhn, and then they have the Parker's Mill. And then there
The
was.
Parker House.
And the Parker Opera House.
That's where the dentistry is now. We've still got the
It is-
Oh, yeah, that we
And
went to
Parker
that.
Woods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should clean this off for you.
Well, we're always busy.
This is women's section. And we have hats from the 1800s all the way to 1940s. And then we stopped. I didn't go any further than 1940s. We didn't have way too much stuff. And then okay, this is really cool. That is human hair jewelry. And when somebody went like to the west, you could be on the East Coast and you're heading to Iowa, they would make jewelry out of human hair. And all these three pieces and everything that's in that case is all human hair. Now, we have more pictures of it.
A lot of it, they comb their hair and long hair and they put it in a receiver, you know, and save it.
If I remember, I'll show you what a receiver is. Yep, the corsets and the undergarments and the shoes. I mean, not just the corsets were tight, but look at the shoes. They had to push their combs.
Holy smokes. Look how tiny that is.
All of them, and even these little shoes here. You know, you find one pair and you think the woman's small, but look at all these shoes. They're not big. If I had to guess, I would say size 4.
Yeah.
This represents the weddings that we found. This is 1886. That's Lundberg's, and they owned a department store in Mesa City. And that's her dress, 1902, and then this is 1934. So this is my wedding.
Kind of a wedding section to give people an idea of how trends change, you know.
It's when we were closed,
Look at that.
John McMillan was the first settler here. His granddaughter got married in 1902 or 3, and they preserved her wedding stuff. We don't have her dress, but we have everything that she wore besides that dress come into our museum in pristine condition.
Who was that?
Shipley.
Oh, yeah.
It was the granddaughter of the first settler.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. Purses, and then it's the baby section. And then I didn't know where, guys section. That's all guys, and then there's children's section here. And we have lots and lots and lots of baby gowns, clear back to 1860s. And then it wasn't unusual for a tub to be in a hotel or a barber shop in the day. And this is one of the first tubs that had running water. Otherwise, a tub would be there and then you'd have to fill it up with water from the well. And this particular barbershop came from Don Lee's barbershop.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was not the one you think by the park.
Oh.
He owned one uptown.
Oh, okay.
And this came to us when the mall came. And then no, it was not Don Lee. Don Lee owned the chair. Wayne Fell owned the barber back bar. They donated 4 to this museum. And we took 1, and Wayne said the other 3 went to the landfill.
Oh.
And that was in the 70s when this wasn't cool
Oh.
to keep. They had the skinny trim instead of our architectural stuff. And then a beauty shop didn't come into
You want to get your hair curled? We can-
I'm
to play
set.
until
Hey.
1920s.
That looks terrifying.
Looks like you're going to be electrocuted.
And I'll turn this then we go into the dentist office. And this is the 1800s style dentist office, and then it came up. This is the first child-sized chair in the 50s.
Oh.
They didn't have children's dentistry up until that time. And the oldest tool we have in here is that. It's a tooth puller.
Oh.
You just put it on your tooth and you just go yank her out.
Yikes.
And when I give touring, like when I take stuff out of the museum and I give a presentation somewhere, I always take that with me, and no one knows what it is. Not even dentists.
One of the
No.
ladies that's on our board, her husband was the dentist.
Yep.
She donated that when he died. But think of the dentist, if you go now, they take and suck everything out of your mouth, and when you used to go, you spit in the bowl and they give you some water.
Yep, and drink out of the
And
same
here's your-
glass.
And then
X-ray
if they had
machine.
X-ray, or drill, or
Yeah, they really do. Then the eye hasn't really changed. I don't know how much this has changed, but look at the styles of glasses, and some people would, put a pin on their hair, and pin it up. Then we get into the doctor's section, and this also came when we were closed. And this was the Story Hospital, the first hospital in Mesa City. And all these instruments came from the Story Hospital. You've heard of Dr. Eglin. They moved that house.
Egloff.
Oh,
Egg
yes, that big, yeah,
Okay.
square one. Yeah.
That was his scalpel.
Oh, okay.
And that letter is dated 1936, I think, and one of it says Dolly or the other
Story. Dolly Story.
Dolly Store or Dorothy, I can't remember which one of them, wrapped it in that letter and saved it.
Oh, wow.
That Dr. Egloff.
Yeah, I toured that house not that long ago.
Okay. And this is a real baby incubator. And if you didn't have electricity, you would put stones in there, warm them up on your fire and put them in, or a water bottle.
Wow.
And if you didn't make it all the way, they put you in one of those.
Yeah, and these were rented.
Oh.
They were not, they're just for, they didn't ever get into the ground. They were for viewing purposes only. I know. And the brown thing there is a diphtheria vaccine in 1904. And I found it in storage and I thought, can you just imagine keeping your needle?
No.
I mean,
Only if you're a druggie.
right, but look, it's glass and it held the diphtheria. They knew what it held and everything.
Wow.
And Hattie Lemonstall was she wanted to be in the war, and they wouldn't let women in the war in World War I, so she became a World War I nurse. That is her uniform, and she became Mason City's first public school nurse.
And she was mine.
She was your school nurse?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That was
Wow.
my time. Yeah, she was a long time, and she lived right on the corner of State Street, and right across the street from St. Paul's Lutheran
Have you
Church.
seen
Oh,
these
yeah.
that I found?
No, these are just new.
Yeah, I just found them in the,
X-rays?
yeah, it's an X-ray. Look at the pin.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's in this hand. I can't really tell.
Have to really look at that.
Oh.
I know, but I just thought they needed to be out. And then I didn't tell you about the barber shop. It used to only have two colors, white and red. And the red was blood, the white was bandages, and then blue came for patriotic reasons. But the bowl on top represented a bowl of leeches because your barber was your first doctor. And when you were sick, they'd put leeches on you or they'd cut you.
Bloodletting.
Yes, and that's how George Washington
Yeah,
died.
get rid of the evil
Poison.
humors.
Yeah.
Oh.
Evil humor.
And that's a real leech bowl right there.
And
That
then-
was donated to us.
And then the barber pole became a symbol because when they were done with the towel, they'd take it out and lay it out there.
Oh,
So the red and white became the barber pole.
okay. And this is an iron lung, and it came from a doctor in Mason City in the 50s. They had polio, and it affected the lungs or the limbs. And
Well, and then the breathing, and of course it breathed for you.
it pressurized the lungs,
Yep.
is what this machine did.
Pneumatic.
Depending on the severity of the disease, some people would have to be in here 24/7. Some people would have to just spend hours in here and then they could get out.
And sometimes they spend most of their
Their
life.
life.
there. And the other thing that isn't there right now is the mirror. The mirror
Oh,
would be right
himself?
here. And we have a book, but it would have a mirror here so that this guy could see you.
oh.
Oh.
And, because he couldn't move.
But see, like,
And we
he's
took-
visiting his daughter, so you know that he
Yeah.
couldn't have been in there,
Yeah.
you know.
But we took this iron lung one time out of here to the Mason City, to the Mercy Hospital
For their 100th
for the
anniversary.
100th
Oh, wow.
anniversary and had it on display. And of course, the new nurses and the new doctors, a lot of them never seen one.
Yeah.
They were fascinated with this. They'd heard of them, but most of them never seen one.
And then this is a pharmacy. I mean, just a hodgepodge of things that came from a pharmacy. And I'm sure that you guys know what this is, right?
Oh,
It looks like an enema type thing.
Oh, that's what
It
I
is
was gonna
not.
guess.
It's a hearing aid.
Oh.
And I have a different one, but I
yeah.
take
The other
it
one is,
touring.
the other one is that other one that we take sometimes that we put out on a table.
Nobody knows what it is.
No.
They have no idea. And then our travel section, oh, John, I have to get somebody here to put these two signs up.
Yeah, sure.
But it's trains, planes, automobiles, ships, how they made the road. We have the bricks from, I think, an old highway.
No,
We have some
some of
rocks.
some of these were blocks that were right in Mason City up by the footbridge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And, that was where the library comes around and it goes around the loop by Master's house with the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those street were blocks.
Okay.
They wanted them quiet. They didn't want the cobblestones, they didn't want the mud. So
they
they had
put-
these blocks, and they were all silent.
Okay.
So-
No, that's another thing I can
At
tell on my
the,
tour.
Music Man Square in the streetscape has blocks that are similar to that.
And then this is dairy section, and this came out of a
Farmer.
dairy. And they would put once they got it into butter, they would put the rest of the butter here, and it's called a butter boat, and they would still get as much buttermilk out of that
Oh, wow.
butter as they could, and it would drip into a
Another tank,
cream separator. This is all dairy stuff.
when they delivered milk by the bottles.
This is how they used to deliver. Right. And then, yep, and then it came, I lived in a time where they still delivered milk at
Me
your
too.
door.
Only not by horse, Hermanson still had the yellow freight with a truck
Then it starts with our music section, and John Kopecky,
from Pearl Lake.
yep, he started, the North Isle Band Festival. And you know who gets credit? And they go by his date. They do not go by John Kopecky's date,
Probably,
Meredith
yeah,
Wilson.
yeah.
And they were good friends.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
really good friends. We have all of John Kopecky's letters to the schools, starting up this new thing, North Isle Band Festival, and that's what he called it.
Mhm.
And then Meredith got it 3 years later, after he started it. But nobody knows who John Kopecky
Yeah.
is. He lived to be 100 years old also.
Oh.
And he directed some of the silent movies in the Cecil Theater. He was a director,
Oh, okay.
and he directed the orchestra.
This calliope we have is reconditioned and it works. It
But
is
you don't wanna turn
very
it on.
loud. We do play it outside.
You
It's-
can hear it from here to the interstate if we turned it on.
I mean, obviously we have it electrified with air and a compressor, but it was on like a riverboat. We got it reconditioned.
You guys know what this is?
I
don't know. They put coal in here, and it was a foot warmer for this.
Oh.
If they didn't have one of these, they had a cement slab like this, and they put it into the fire, and then before they went to the grocery store or whatever, church, they put them in there. Now, there's this gal that just died.
And if you were cold, you had a robe.
Oh, yeah, they wore white, and Mondays was the cleaning day. Did Catherine Fell die in 19? Yeah, she died in 2019. She was 108 years old.
She used to come out here all the time.
She did not, she still was in her own home on an acreage. She mowed her own lawn up till she was 99 years old. She said when she was a kid, she put one of those burners in her bed and started a quilt on fire.
Oh.
And her mother died in the 1918 flu pandemic
Oh.
with 7 girls for the father to raise. In 1918. And this, I don't know where that cabinet came from. This table came from the Decker house.
Oh,
The
okay.
Decker family. And then that set of dishes, the brown and white, that came in a crate filled with oatmeal on a covered wagon. And just that, for instance, that thing that's hanging out of that drawer, they grew their flax, they took it to the textile mill, and then they weaved it into a tablecloth.
Now we got this. This is where you kept
Oh,
your
yeah.
bowls.
Oh, to keep them warm?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you know what this is, don't you?
To clean off
Your
the table.
butler or your maid. Had any
Oh.
crumbs? Crumb catcher.
There's a lot of registers like that, but not
Yep.
like with the warmer.
Yeah.
And then if you step, this tile floor came from that lady that was 108 years old.
Oh,
is
this is in
Mrs.
her house?
Yeah, she had it in her attic, and it was all folded up, and it was in her attic for 50 some years. And I said, I want this, and she goes, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. I said, I'm putting it in the museum. And it kind of cracked, but you know what?
It's okay.
It looks pretty dang good for
Yeah.
the age it is. Okay, now if you step back here, I always try to compare the two kitchens. In, this is your refrigeration here, and they carry the ice, you know,
Ice
like,
box.
yep, like Herman's and Dairy delivered milk, they delivered ice, you put it in there, and then by 1920s, they had refrigeration, most people, I'm not even gonna say most, a lot of people
Many.
had, then you had to pump water here, and you got running water here, but it still came out in two different spigots. You had to, you know, adjust your
sure.
water. And then the Hoosier Cupboard came in the 1920s. You had propane versus wood here. And then they went to electric. They had the electric irons, the electric fan. Just in those 20 years, the changes that were made. But still people use stuff like this in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And you guys know about the Hoosier Cupboard?
I've heard of them.
It's the pie safe.
All of this, most of it, they have the bread boxes, they have the flour sifter, they have a potato bin, this is all metal. They have these things, and I just learned this, they filled those up with water so that the ants could not get into the flour and
Oh,
sugar.
no kidding.
And this pulls out, this is all metal, this is all metal in here, and it pulls out. I mean, it's just really, and they don't make them anymore. You know, they're obsolete. And then the laundry, I just have different things.
I always like to point out the irons to kids, or anybody, when they were ironing, they usually had to have 3 of them going. One to iron, one that was cooling, and one that was heating. You know, so they should keep going.
Yeah.
And some of these, like, you see,
That's a fluter. That was for ruffled colors.
for fat collars and pleats.
And see, this is, they call most of these sad irons, and this is how they changed out, like he said, 2 or 3 going. So if this is on the fire getting hot and you had one really cool, you just went like this and flipped it on. And there's different kinds, styles of handles.
Some of these are really heavy.
Yeah, and then, like this one, you put coal in it, and to keep it going, the fire going, you had to swing it. Can you imagine washing your clothes and then getting coal?
I hate laundry enough.
I know, and this is the corner that's the oldest, because she'd have to heat everything, her water and everything,
And the iron?
on the stove and the iron, and then
Wash tub.
she'd wash it.
Scrub
And I'm
them.
sure that you guys have seen these, right? You just thought it was a toilet bowl plunger, but you know it's metal. This is how they washed clothes. These are your first.
Ringers.
Agitator.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell kids, I said, some of these women, they have a solar powered air dryer. They go, really? I said, what is that? I said, it's a clothesline.
And they wore a lot of white clothes.